We are back with good old Wolter's World as he's going to tell us the 10 most annoying habits of American tourists in Europe. Now, I'm super excited about this one because I know we as Americans can be extremely annoying, so I wonder how annoyed we make you Europeans. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in.
Hey there, fellow travelers, Mark here with Wolter's World, and today we're in Nafio, Greece, and today we're going to talk about are some of the ways American tourists annoy Europeans when they come here for a visit. And the thing is, a lot of the annoyances I'm going to talk about, these aren't things that just American tourists do. These are things that tourists from all over the world do. However, since English is the de facto tourist language in Europe, it kind of gets lumped together that anybody speaking English being annoying must be an American. Or they could be an Italian, they could be Swiss, they could be Spanish, they could be from anywhere, okay? And I think the first kind of
I think he's just trying to let us down easy and be like, hey, look, Americans are very annoying, but, you know, other people are annoying too. However, really, it's you guys that are annoying.
annoyance I want to bring up is just the being loud. And being loud, but being loud and not aware of your surroundings. Nobody cares if you're loud when you're on the beach, you're having a good time, or you're at a club. No. It's when you're at a restaurant and you're like shouting your love for Athens or how uncomfortable the beds were at that hotel and you're just being loud. Like, that's just it. When you go around Europe, you'll notice there's not a lot of loud people. Yes, when you go to Spain, there's boisterous Italians. Yes, there are those. But in general, when you're going out to eat, you're not expressing everything in 10 decibels higher than usual. And this is one thing, I know I've made this mistake too, is it seems like when we travel, our voices just get louder and louder.
Yeah.
So do be aware of that, because if you're in restaurants or you're out and about or you're at museums, you want to kind of tone down the volume because that annoys people. And especially if you're on public transportation. I mean, there's trains in many countries here in Europe that actually have a quiet train where you're not supposed to talk. And so if you hop on and start talking on your phone, or even better, talk on your phone with a speakerphone, yeah, that's a bonus annoyance anywhere in the world. If you talk on the speakerphone, please don't do that.
Oh my gosh. Have you guys ever been around somebody who literally is arguing on the phone with somebody and they have it on speaker? It's like, nobody wants to hear your problems. Keep that stuff to yourself. And why would you want to share your problems with other people to begin with? That is such a new, oh my gosh. I can't even, those people drive me crazy. So it sounds like he's saying just being loud in general, but only in like a restaurant or like the quiet trains, which I didn't know that was a thing. But those make sense. If it's already quiet, like a library, that's just kind of the default. You're not going to be loud. But if you're, you know, out and about, like at the beach and stuff like that, being loud, that's kind of normal, especially if you're in another country because you're super excited to be there. You know, your voice is just going to carry. That's just going to happen. So I understand that one. So don't be too loud.
No one else wants to hear about your constipation problem in Portugal, all right? So do be aware of that. So tone down the volume, you'll be okay. And kind of going along with that, another thing that annoys people is when you kind of complain when things don't work out exactly like you expect, or everything's not perfect, like just like it back home. That insults people, because basically what you're saying is, well, your culture here, your country here sucks and ours is so much better. And you have to realize this, you're in a new country, you're in a new place, and things do work a little bit differently. Because I have heard people complain, oh, the metros are so full. I'm like, well, yeah, you're in Paris during rush hour. People have to get to work. That's part of life. There was a video that went viral a few weeks ago about this lady that was complaining, like, oh, you know, they show these beautiful pictures of the Amalfi Coast, but they don't tell you how you have to take a train and then a bus and then a ferry, and then there's all these people there. well, yeah, shocking. You have to travel, right? And so those kind of complaining things, that kind of annoys people when you're here. And yes, there are annoyances that annoy them. Dog poop on the street annoys everybody. But the complaining kind of thing, the kind of comparison, putting them down. And this is something that other Europeans do. I see German tourists traveling around to Portugal, Spain, or Eastern Europe, and they definitely look down their nose at them like, oh, how are these things not working like back in Germany? So it's not just an American thing, but just the complaining overall. You can complain, but keep it amongst yourselves in your hotel room. Don't be complaining to the locals.
Yeah, so I do fall victim to that one. I do complain all the time, but I keep it like under my breath. I don't sit there and shout it out to the world, you know, my problems and stuff like that. I always keep it to myself because that is annoying. But when you are traveling to another country, you can't expect it to be like your own place, like where you're used to. It's a completely different place. Even if here, when you go to another state, just like over the border, it's completely different. Now, when you go across the world to a completely different culture, you cannot expect that at all. So I think that's very rude of people to do that, especially, and then they try to tell other people about that. Nah, they're like, go back to your own country if you don't like it here then. So I'm on their side with that one.
And another way you can really annoy the locals is really basically like if you've got too much luggage or you're not being aware of your surroundings again, but in terms of space, that means blocking the metro entrance or blocking the door of the metro, or having all your luggage blocking the whole sidewalk so people can't get by. I mean, people are still living, have to do things. And when I see tour groups that are just like literally, it's like almost like they put their arms out like this to try to take up as much of the space
Give me
as
all
possible.
the space.
Of course, it's going to annoy people. So if you're going to be in a tour group, stand to the side. I mean, you don't get the entire street. You don't get the entire sidewalk. People need to get to work. So be aware of that, because that's why some people really, really don't like tour groups, because a lot of the tour guides, they don't care about people in that community. All they care about is making their tourists that are off from their tour from the cruise ship happy, because they're the ones that are going to tip them, going to give them money. That's their job. So do be aware of that, because it really comes down to just being selfish. I mean, we're all selfish people. That's what it is being human. You are selfish, but
Everybody
when you
is.
travel, trying to tone it down a little bit, because that's going to help you blend in better, but also have a better chance of making friends when you travel. Now, another thing that you know as Europeans when you travel, and this is not just American tourists, but lots of tourists, when they wander out in the middle of the street to get that perfect picture with the Eiffel Tower or the Brandenburg Gate or wherever, and you'll see people literally like wandering out to the middle of the Champs-Elysees to get their picture like this, or to hold the Eiffel Tower, or to get the Acropolis, and they really are putting themselves in danger. Like, you realize one of the most dangerous parts of travel is car accidents. I think that's one of the, if not the highest, the number 2 highest reason why tourists get killed when they travel is car accidents. And so if you're out there trying to get that perfect picture in the middle of the street, yeah, you know what? If you're here in Greece, you're gonna die. Like, people are gonna boom, knock you over. So don't do that, because that's what people are like, what the heck are you doing? Like, I see the locals like ripping their hair out when people are trying to walk across the circle around the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. There's stairs to go down. And
That's true too. I could see that. You know, like the trams go right in the street. I mean, somebody go out there, try to take a selfie and just get like plowed over by the train or tram or whatever. It's like that one video, I don't know, it's been circling around the internet, but that lady went to go try to take a selfie with the train that's like coming like in the background, like real fast, and she goes up to it and it like clips her somehow and she goes flying, and it like knocks her out and kills her like instantly just for a picture. Like, that's insane. Could you imagine that just for a selfie?
that's just it. Some of these pictures you take that are dangerous, there's spots you can take it without being dangerous. There's a whole huge park behind the Eiffel Tower you can take pictures from. The Brandenburg Gate, the other side, there's actually a pedestrian square you can stand at and get your pictures. So think about those things, because you're putting yourself in danger, but also those drivers out there, you're putting them in danger too. Now, the next annoyance that happens with American tourists is when they only speak English. Now, I'm not saying Americans should speak tons of languages, because all those things that people say, well, Europeans all speak 5 or 6 languages, that's a bunch of BS. I've traveled all around Europe. I've lived around Europe. I lived here for 12 years, multiple countries. Yes, a lot of people will speak the local language and in English. But the ones that are like, oh no, they speak French and Spanish and Portuguese and German and English and Rätoromanisch and some Luxembourgish. Yeah, no, those are the Luxembourgers. Those are the Swiss. You go to Spain. The Spain speak Spanish. Some speak some English. You go to Portugal. Yes, there's a lot of English there, and some Spanish, but there's not a lot of other things. You go to Italy. You're going to need to learn some Italian when you're there. And so I'm not like harping on anyone for not knowing the language. It's the not trying. Because honestly, just Ευχαριστώ, which is thank you here in Greece, will go a long way. I mean, honestly, wherever you go, learn thank you and cheers. And
I remember that. It was like Ευχαριστώ. I remember there's a Greek festival here where I'm at, and I was younger, and I remember, oh my gosh, that just dropped, like, this gave me like deja vu in a sense of not of this, but of that word. And I remember eating something really good, delicious, but I was younger, and somebody said to me that, and that was one of the words that stuck with me. I just went in a circle with that, but it was Ευχαριστώ, something like that. Oh, that's crazy. It just brought that back for me.
And everybody's gonna love you. I mean, hi, thank you, and cheers. You might get free raki or free ouzo here in Greece just because of that, right? So just know that trying some of those languages go a long way, because if you just start out in English, and then a bonus upsetting people is that just speaking louder when they don't understand you, that gets things worse, okay? So just a few words, because they'll know you don't speak it by the way you say Ευχαριστώ, thank you. Like, I say it badly, but it's close enough. They're like, look at you, funny American, trying. You want some ouzo? I got some for you, buddy.
I know that's like a big thing. You know, do people really make fun of you if you're trying to speak their language, but you don't know how to do it well, or it just sounds completely terrible? I feel like most, you know, foreigners appreciate that, whereas here in America, when they're trying to speak English, we just get upset and annoyed and kind of like want them to hurry up and just move on and just figure it out for them, kind of. I think there's a big difference with there.
Need some meat toast? I got you taken care of. Because honestly, overall in Europe, these things really don't annoy them a lot. It's not like it's going to cause you any fights, but these are little things you can do and be aware of so you can be a better traveler when you're here. And when you've been here, I think another annoyance you might think about is when you say, I've been to Europe, when all you've done is like a weekend in London or you spent a week in Paris. Look, it's like if you go to the U.S., someone goes to the U.S., say, oh, I've been to the U.S. I went to New York City. I went to Orlando. I'm like, yeah, New York City's cool. Orlando is Orlando. But does that truly represent all of the U.S.? No, we have all kinds of different, topography, geography, people, food, all kinds of stuff. And here in Europe, it's even 10 times that because you have so many different cultures, so many different countries. So a visit to Poland is completely different than a visit to Portugal. A visit to Norway is completely different to here in Naflio. And by kind of lumping them all together, it kind of cheapens their cultural feelings and it makes you look bad. So be like, oh yeah, I've been to France, I've been to Paris, until you really explore a lot, you'll start to see, wow, there is a lot of difference. It's not just one Europe. There's a lot of different Europes out there, okay?
I love that one. Like, I really love that mistake because it's just like he said, France, there's so many other places around other than Paris, right? And there's like the countryside and everything. When you think of Paris, you just think of the city. It's like here in Ohio. You can have like downtown Columbus. It's huge, a bunch of buildings all over the place. It's busy. And then you can go like on the outskirts and then it's just country and cornfields and it's all flat and everybody like hates it and everything. And then Ohio might be completely different than Florida or Texas. Like absolutely, almost like a different country basically. So I think thinking just because, it's English and it's America, it is not all the same. It's completely different. Just like overseas, if you go to one city within Norway, you go to Tromsø, and then Oslo is completely different. So I think that was a really good one, that, mistake that he pointed out.
Now, another thing I think is important for those of you that are proud of your European heritage when you come here, and that is sometimes in some countries really promoting your 100% Greek heritage or your 100% Irish heritage might backfire. Because you're coming here thinking, yes, I'm going to the old country. I'm seeing where Yaya and Papuli were from. I'm going back to see where my grandfather, great-great-grandfather left from Dublin and how he got here. Yes, you're really proud of that. But the locals here, they do not see you as a Greek. They do not see you as an Irish, a true Irish person. They see you as someone with an Irish background that's here on vacation. Oh, you're a Greek American that's coming here to spend a month of the summer. Because I'm going to tell you right now, coming to Greece for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks in the summertime on vacation, making U.S. money or Australian money or Canadian money, isn't the same thing as growing up here, having to live through the austerity measures in the early 2000s. It's a whole different ballgame. In Ireland, there's a lot of resentment because, look, just because your 5 times back generation grandparents were from Ireland doesn't mean you understand what it means to be Irish. You weren't here during the Troubles. You don't understand those things. And that can cause some resentment. Now, it's not everywhere. I know for me personally, when I found out there's a little bit of me that was Lithuanian, I just brought it up to my friends. Oh, yeah, there's like 5% Lithuanian in my family. And all my Lithuanian friends were like, yes, you're one of us. And so it is different places you go. So it might be something you want to be aware of.
I still have to share my genealogy because I did get that. And I'm going to share that with you guys. And I think you guys might be a little bit surprised.
The thing that might upset Europeans, and this is it gets to that point eventually, is one, you might notice that sometimes they'll ask you questions like, so why are so many Americans fat? Well, I am fat. It's because I have lack of self-control. That's very simple. But they'll point out, oh, you Americans, all you eat is fast food, all you eat is junk food. And that's not what gets them mad. What gets them mad is when you point out, it's funny, when I walk by the McDonald's and the Burger Kings and the KFCs and the Taco Bells in Spain, in Portugal, in Greece, in Germany, they're not full of American tourists. They're full of Germans. They're full of Bulgarians. They're full of Maltese. It's the locals that are even there too. And Europeans are getting a little bit more supersized, not like us supersized, but they're getting a little bit bigger too. And that sometimes irks them when you point out that, look, it's not just Americans that eat junk food. Other places do as well. Now, another thing I've seen, this is one thing, any tourist does this, it's really not a good thing, is really disrespecting monuments and disrespecting cultural heritage in different countries. Because I've been places where people are doing their duck-face selfies in front of concentration camps. What the hell is wrong with you? Like those kind of things. Or people that are playing parkour on the Jewish Memorial in Berlin. And they're like, well, the artist wants it to be lived on. Really? Come on. And this isn't just something American tourists do. This is something any tourist does. So Be respectful when you go around. Don't be making a fool, especially in very solemn locations when there's memorials or places where people have died or battlefields. I mean, it's a very important thing for a lot of people, and it will insult people sometimes when you do that. And then, as an American, I think there's one kind of important thing you need to know that will upset some Europeans no matter what you do, and that's just the fact that you're American. Look, it doesn't matter what political party you're for. It doesn't matter political parties at all. There's people that don't like what the U.S. does, and so they will take that out on you. Even if you have nothing to do with it, it's just a fact of life. So be aware of that. And that's one thing you'll see is sometimes the locals know more about politics in your country than you do. And I'm not just talking to the U.S. I'm talking all around the world, from China to Brazil to wherever.
It's
and just be aware
possible.
of that, because sometimes they will kind of transfer that misunderstanding, that dislike onto you as a traveler, okay? I mean, I've had people swing at me before because I was American.
What
I don't
in the
think I'm a
world?
very bad tourist, though some people probably do, but I don't think I am. So just some things to kind of think about. And I'll be honest with you, most of these things you're going to be doing, if you do them, no one's going to say anything. Nobody's going to care. But it might be those little differences that get people to come up and talk to you. Get up and say, hey, why don't you have a drink with us? Or, hey, what are you doing here in Greece? What are you doing here in Italy? Why is some weird guy here in Lithuania? Tell us more. And that's how you get to make some really good friends when you travel. So don't think these annoyances are only things that American tourists do. These are things that lots of tourists do from all around the world, including here in Europe as well.
As always, Wolter always has the best tips and videos. I really like the last one where he talked about everybody hates Americans. It's funny because a lot of people want to come to America and live in America, but they kind of hate what America produces. So it's like they want to come over with their cultural background, but then transform to be an American. Doesn't really make sense to me, but then again, I can understand it. Some degree I can, but not really. Maybe somebody can shed some light onto that.